So welcome, Thomas John, to the Mediumship Development Support Group, my YouTube channel. I'm very excited to have you. So you have so much going on, but we obviously want to start with the subject of mediumship. Tell me a little bit, Thomas, what intrigued you to develop with your mediumship, and when you began that journey, how did you unfold? Because I know that you, from what I know, you've taken, obviously you've had to learn foundation and what, different things to be able to do the mediumship. But what were the steps that you took to be able to evolve?
Right. So yeah, I consider myself a naturally born medium in terms of all my early childhood memories, I always had a connection to the spirit world, and I always felt that I had really strong abilities, and always felt that I was able to communicate with them. Even at a young age, I was able to communicate with spirit and connect with spirit. And I was not aware of mediumship or psychics or anything like that. But when I was 4 and 5 years old, I have many, many memories of seeing loved ones, seeing deceased people, and connecting with them, receiving messages, having lots of dreams and things like that. And so it wasn't really, and as I shared this with my family, it was sort of very much like considered a negative thing, considered like a scary thing, a bad thing. And so it really wasn't until I was really, when I was in like about 19 or 20 years old, that I even really became aware of a medium or a psychic or things like that. And I began to explore that a little bit, not really seriously, but I did begin to explore that a little bit. And I really was going down the path, still of, I actually went to the University of Chicago, and I was studying psychology and human development. So I was living on the south side of Chicago there, and I really was just in that world, and I never thought about mediums or psychics. And I would say a couple of things, sort of, how the spirit world is sort of, you get reinforcement of things. So you might get one sort of guidance, and then it's like you don't really pick up on it, and then they give it to you again. So it was really through, I had a close friend that died, because up until then, I never had a loved one that really I had a connection with that had passed. My grandfather passed, but he didn't really speak. My other grandfather, my dad's side, who visited me, he was the first spirit that ever visited me, but I didn't know him in life. So I had a couple of deaths that were really pivotal for me, and it made me want to connect with the spirit world more, and became more open to that and stuff. And also some things had shifted in my life in terms of, I grew up in a very abusive household, and my parents had separated, so it was like easier for me to be who I was. I was coming in, in college, sort of having an awakening of who I was as a person. And so I did begin to start to take like meditation classes and spirituality classes. But again, it wasn't like I was on the path, I'm going to be a medium. And as I started to explore this, I just kept getting this reinforcing message, whether it would be in readings or in, dealing with certain people. I just kept getting this reinforcing type of message that I was supposed to, do this for my work. And so that's kind of the path basically that I went on. I was, scared about it at first and didn't really trust it at first and stuff. And it was just the path that seemed to make the most sense. And then I did start to take workshops and classes, and, I wouldn't say that I necessarily have I've never actually really had, I would say, a mediumship mentor. I wouldn't say that I actually have had somebody. No, that's a path that a lot of people have that is great. But my mentorship has been more just the spirit world. And
I love that.
Yeah. So,
I love that. I'm so, I'm probably in reverse. So I evolved because I almost had a near-death experience, and then prior to that, people would tell me, Lillian, you have the gift, you have white light. And I'm like, life was busy, John. Thomas, there's so much going on. And I was like, I want to keep calling you John. Were you named after someone? Is that middle name?
Yeah, my great grandfather is.
No wonder, because I'm like, I know his name is Thomas. I know who he is. So he's here. But I evolved as well, slowly understanding, and then I started to learn the clairs, and that's how you become more aware of, okay, there's a presence there. And I think I was a wow woman. So I was like, oh my God, I have someone here, but that foundation is needed so that you're not depleted, right? And so you come into really wanting to learn from people, whether it's a workshop or a class or a book. But I think the most important thing is being authentic and being exactly who you are. And I think for me this year, and you hit it on the head, Thomas, when you said your biggest teachers have been the spirit world. And when I said to you the other day, I was like, I love how you are. That's what I meant. Because I see that. Because when you're reading, you're just like, oh, and I have a John, and I want a reference to, and you're just flowing, and it's like a conversation, and you're not following a very strict foundation, which is good, because that would be, right, like search, or perhaps, this interview process. But why not let the spirit world speak, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I just sort of, yeah, that's kind of just how I've done stuff and stuff. So I'm not really, but I have had people definitely that I admire and look up to. And I think really that, I think every medium is different.
Sure.
And I think that's, I think the important thing, the foundation, the self-awareness, the self-analysis, I think that's something that we all have to do. But I think that mediumship does take many different forms, and there are many different, styles and techniques of it. And as long as you are within the parameters of certain things, I think that, I always encourage my students to kind of go in the way that they feel most comfortable.
Sure, that's important, because like you said, some believe it or not, some people, they like that structure, that interview process. Now let me ask you this. I'm curious to see how you're going to respond to this, because that's kind of what we're talking about, is mental mediumship. And then the freestyle, I don't know, I'm just calling it freestyle, like, hey, come on in, what's going on, what do you want to say, what is your message? But what in your view is the difference between mental mediumship and more of the style in which you read, which is, I would say, just allowing the presence to be what it is? So what I'm asking is, when
Yeah.
does
Yeah.
that make sense?
So yeah, for some reason you cut out for a second. I think I missed part of the question. So
Yeah, you froze a little bit. So my question is, what would you consider mental mediumship, Thomas? Would you say that that's more of a structured type reading, where they're coming into spirit world and following a structure?
yes, yeah, yeah, I would,
Okay.
yeah. I feel like it's more that.
And so your style is more like, what is your process when you go into the spirit world? What happens? Do you use one particular clair? Do you just wait for whatever imprints start to come in?
Yeah, basically, I really focus on my sort of my preparation process, which is, really meditating, really powering up, really energizing my field, so I feel like I'm ready to kind of go into that space. And once I link in with the spirit world, I really allow them. I have I guess I would say I have, maybe this is different from a lot of mediums, but I guess I sort of let them take over. And so in that way, my mediumship sometimes can be a little bit like, for example, in, like traditional demonstrations, I've seen that a lot of mediums, they won't go back to somebody, like if they're in a gallery and, they might read one person, then they go on to the next person, and they never really, they would never really come back to the first person that they started with. But I sort of allow spirit to, and I use everything that comes through. So the order with which they come through, the evidence that they bring through, why they talk about certain things. So for me, the evidence is the evidence, obviously, but I'm always thinking, I'm also not thinking, but I'm also using my own clairvoyance, claircognizance, clairsentience, clairaudience to get more about, why did that piece of evidence come through? Why did that come through instead of the thousands of other things that somebody, because I often find that the evidence that comes through, there's more. So for example, if my grandfather was a carpenter, and he shows the medium carpentry and doing work, I don't just use that as a validation. I also will kind of stay with that and try to see if there's a reason. Let me just say I'm doing the reading. So somebody's grandfather comes through and he was a carpenter. So then I might say, okay, well, I want to stay with that for a second and try to understand and try to feel or sense or hear or know why that came through there. Is it the grandfather trying to say, you need to be a harder worker, or is the grandfather saying you work too hard, or, so I try to use the evidence to also kind of push my message forward too, because I do feel like there's, and sometimes I've seen when some certain mediums or when people are developing that they kind of, it becomes a little bit more like, which is fine. I mean, the validations are great, but the kind of more of a list of things. And I think it's better to sort of stay with the evidence a little bit and kind of try to understand, why is that coming through now? This is what he's trying to communicate with me. And I don't always push that. I mean, sometimes it is just a validation. But sometimes I will try to stay with the evidence a little bit. I think also too, I'm very interested in just the whole dynamic, like when I'm on platform, just the whole dynamic in the room. So even like why certain people get placed next to each other, why certain stories come up in succession. And I usually find that the spirit world will thread into the next message. So it's like, even if they're totally two different experiences, there's like a reason that we go to the next person and stuff. And so when I follow that, I feel like my mediumship is much more, there's a clearer kind of path and stuff.
Sure. Absolutely. I can understand that. It makes so much sense. And that had me thinking for a while, right? In reference to what you said, such a brilliant comment. There's always a thread. So you follow the thread of the evidence, but then there's a theme. So let's say a theme. And then it'll go from one message to the next recipient, but it'll be kind of sort of related, or there's a theme to it. And it's interesting because that means that the spirit world, they're obviously communing, they're, talking. They're like, oh, they're going to get together. We're going to get together. Who's here? Hey, your story's like mine. I see cool.
Right, exactly.
So it's awesome. So you have many things going on. And I'm very excited for you. I know one of those things. So let me ask you this. How did you end up on TV? Oh, hello?
My first time ever, or just this recent?
Your first time ever. Your first time ever.
Are you talking? Yeah. Sorry, I don't know. Is it my internet connection? It might be my internet
connection. Kind of froze a little bit
there. Hold on one second. Do you want me to try to see?
I can hear you well for the most part.
Connection that might be more. Okay, so maybe I am fine. Hold on. I mean, I could. It's weird because in my place there's two. I can try to switch to this other connection, but you might lose me for a second. Maybe I'll just keep on this one.
Yeah, I can hear you.
You were saying, how did I get on? Okay.
Yeah.
How did I get on TV the first time or the recent
The
time?
very first time, Thomas. The very first time.
Oh God, I'm trying to think. Well, I'm trying to think. My God. I've just always been somebody that I feel that mediumship should be celebrated. And very early on in my mediumship, when I was first developing and first getting connected to the spirit world, they told me, and I'm a very shy, sort of socially awkward, and really don't, I mean, it sounds bad I love my work and I love my clients, but I'm really not like a people person. I don't have tons and tons of friends. I mean, and so but they told me when I first started doing readings that one of my jobs was going to be to bring the mediumship to a larger platform. And they told me that I would have to deal with encountering a lot of skeptics, and that was going to be part of my mission, and that I was, I had the strength to do that and stuff. And so, I think just through, I've always been knowing that I have to get my message out there more. And I think that definitely in this recent project that I'm doing, which is I have my own show that's coming out in July. It's called Seatbelt Psychic. And so it's crazy. And when they presented this to me, I said, no, I don't want to do that. But as I thought about it, there's a lot of positives to it. So the show premise, which I can kind of share with you,
Yes.
is it's a show about basically I am, and basically I am, people get into my car thinking that they're getting into a normal ride share, and it turns out that they get a reading. Now, I'm not a fan of, ambushing people or putting people in uncomfortable situations. So I always ask people's permission before I give them a reading. And that is something that I do on the show. So it's not like I'm, jumping out of the bushes at people and stuff, but the reason that we did that, and the reason why it sounds a little strange, and some people may think, oh my God, that's, can't believe that you're doing that. But the thing that I learned is that, you and I have certain experiences and stuff. There are a lot of people, and I was shocked by this in terms of, there are so many people who have never seen a medium. They have no idea what a medium is. They've never even heard of the ability to communicate with the other side. They haven't even thought of that. There are so many people out there that, and what I realized is, oh my God, I'm so jaded and spoiled in terms of, well, everybody that comes to my events and my readings, I mean, they already at least know that there's mediums in the world, but there are so many people that they have no idea. They think that when people die, they die and you never see them again. And there's a lot of people that are out there. There are a lot of people that have religious beliefs that block them from thinking that. There are a lot of people that have had gifts that are told. So this show presents me with the opportunity to not just read celebrities, to not just read people that have booked appointments with me that are on some sort of waiting list, but to meet real people that are just, and there's the great thing about the show is, there's no element of producing because it's just whoever gets in the car. And so,
oh my God, I would be like, ah!
Yeah, it's crazy because you realize that within a couple of days, I realized this is going to be a very special opportunity for people because there's so many people that are like, what is a medium? I think I've heard, is that like that person on TV? But they don't have a real concept. They've never had an experience with it. And so to give people some closure and stuff and healing for people who really didn't even think that they needed it, that's a great opportunity. So that's the premise of the show and stuff. But I always am telling mediums, we have to blog, we have to get out there, we have to promote ourselves, we have to, people sometimes will even say, oh, I don't like that word celebrity psychic. And I say, well, celebrity comes from celebrating, I think that we should celebrate mediumship. I mean, we celebrate athletes, actors, and I've noticed a lot of my clients that I work with, that I mentor, that are mediums, they get very, most people that are healers, they have blocks with money and financial issues and things like that. Yeah, and it's important to look at those things. I mean, nobody, you know this, I know this, you don't go into mediumship because you want to be wealthy, because you just don't make that kind of money. I mean, if you want to be wealthy, you be a doctor, a lawyer, or whatever. Doctors don't even make that much money anymore. But the moral is no, you don't go into this profession for money. You don't go into that's a bad, can you support yourself? Can you, support your family from it? Of course. And you should. I mean, you have to take care of yourself first. But it is interesting that, but so for me, I've used the media to get my message out there. And sometimes I've been attacked in the media. I've had people that have attacked me. And, when you put yourself in that line of fire, that happens sometimes too. And I just have to know that that's part of the process but I really do encourage mediums to get out there, even in your local community, go to places where you would think, when I got asked to be on the Dr. Phil show a few years ago, I was like, are you serious? Like, I was scared because I'm like, Dr. Phil? That sounds scary to me. That sounds like something I'm going to get, he's going to try to debunk me or something. Turned out, again, it brought to a mass audience, people that they never even heard of mediums before. So,
And what I love about this too is something that I always keep in mind. How amazing is it for the spirit world? Because you know what, Thomas? That family member probably would have never seen the medium, and that soul would have never had the opportunity to say, I love you, I miss you, I'm doing well. Oh my God, that makes me emotional right now. Like,
Yeah.
you're correct in an even deeper level, because it's the healing that takes place here and the other side. They get to have a voice. They get to feel the presence. And how beautiful and amazing is that? And the more that we do it, the more the spirit world wants to work with us as mediums, when we keep the love involved. Like you said, yeah, okay, the more we have, the more we have to give. Prosperity is needed, and it's a good exchange. And quite interesting enough, you said a lot of people in this industry have issues with money, and that is so true. I remember times when I started, it was hard for me to charge. I felt guilty. I felt bad about it. But I'm like, but I have this desire to reach the world, not just Chicago. So how do I do that if I can't pay my bills? Not that I did it for money, but it just became this desire, and trying to balance the fact of always remembering to do this for my heart and not for the money.
Right.
But knowing that both are needed, and there's a balance between the two.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and like I said, I encourage people, as you develop your mediumship and build a practice, and write books or teach classes, share that with local media, or reach out to people. I mean, the worst they can say is, I've had a lot of, but I do use the media to promote what I do, because I feel like there are so many people that just, TV. The truth of the matter is, TV is a very powerful way to reach people. A lot of people watch TV, and so if it's done right, there's several TV show deals that I walked away from, because I was like, okay, I'm not doing that. I don't want to do the Real Housewives of the Psychics. I'm not doing, so there has to be integrity in everything you do. Of course, you have to, the way, you have to do integrity. But yeah, everything you do has to have integrity, but you can do that as a way to promote. Yeah. So.
Absolutely. Which I'm excited about, that you've taken time out of your very busy, crazy, hectic schedule. It was so funny. This is the first time we talked, but yeah, we've been talking on Messenger for months. And that's how crazy busy I am. But I'm like, I can't imagine him launching a TV show, doing everything that you've done. I know you traveled, you worked with Mavis, you worked here, you worked there, and your own stuff. So I know how that can be. So thank you for giving me the time. And also, I'm so very excited to collaborate with you and take the stage. You have to understand, I'm not a brown noser in any way, and I'm going to put that out there. But I appreciate people and their light, and I appreciate the fact that we're taking the platform together, because for me it is an honor, because I sat and I watched you. And when I left that day, I was like, I actually remember, I don't know if you remember, I reached out to you and I said, do you mentor? I was like, do you mentor? Because I love your naturalness.
Which event did you come to?
I went to the with Jen, how you do the interview and then you do the gallery. So I went there because Hope told me about it. She came to one of my galleries and she's like, you gotta go see him. You guys would be so compatible. You guys, like, you're wild people. I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, he's like you. He just goes with it, like, yay! So I went.
Yes, I do remember that. Yeah. So yeah, no, I always think that it's like, I love working with other people, and that's something that it's interesting, because it's always brings a different, and keep, nothing with you, but it's interesting, because I've had situations where I've collaborated with somebody where I'm like, wow, I would never do that again, situations where there's a great connection and stuff. So I always am open to that, and I always ask spirit, am I supposed to, so it's funny, sometimes, and it's just interesting how that shows up and stuff. But no, I think it's great, because it just brings more, just more opportunity. It's wonderful, and I tell people also, yeah, and certain people, it just, you as a medium, I think, have to decide, are you somebody that you want to collaborate, or you don't, and so you have to make those choices and stuff. But I whatever I can, I like to.
I love it. I know you were like, hey, and I reached out to you and we both got busy, and then it was like, hey, Lillian, do you want to do this? And I'm like, absolutely. I didn't know you lived in Chicago. At
Yeah,
what point?
yeah. I actually, yeah. Funny story. I lived there actually for 4 years. And then I graduated from college and I moved away. Then I actually came back for a little bit. I was not doing mediumship at that time. And then I left again. And actually, about a year ago, it's a funny story, but I love Chicago. It's one of my favorite cities. And I go there so much. And so one of my close friends actually said, I'm thinking of renting out my bedroom, my extra bedroom in my apartment. He's got an apartment in Lakeview, a 2-bedroom apartment. And he said, if I gave you a good price, would you want to, take it that way? I don't have to look for another roommate. And I know you won't be there all the time. I'll give you a good price. And so I rented, it's like $500 a month. I rent this one. I have so I have an apartment there, actually. I'm only there like probably 6 times a year, but it's just better to like,
You have somewhere to go.
yeah, keep stuff there and stuff. So I do technically have a little place there too.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's nice. So I'm very excited for October. So for all that are near Chicago or in Chicago, we will be taking the platform together to Crazy Mediums to, we're going to celebrate mediumship, however the spirit world wants us to. And it's going to be in the Sheridan Hotel in Elk Grove. We posted the flyer and we launched it last week. And I was very excited to see also that you had your fan page up for your TV show. Mm-hmm. So look out for the flyer. Everybody that would like to join. Thomas John's galleries, they sell out. So if I were you guys, even though it's in October, if you're interested in guided and you feel like Spirit is taking you there, purchase your tickets. I'll post the information when we're done with this interview. But now, Thomas, let's go to the next thing, which I'm excited about, which is the launch of your TV show. So I know that you mentioned that it's in July. Mm-hmm. And how has that been for you? Because a lot of mediums say, I want to reach the level that I'm asked to be on TV, but it really has changed me and who I am with my family, and I don't know if I'm okay with it or if I regret it. Where do you stand with that? How has that been for you, being a celebrity on TV? Has that been a positive effect for you? Has it been a negative effect? Has it been a little bit of both?
Right. I guess, since it hasn't launched yet, I guess I can't, I won't fully know until it starts and stuff.
But, like for you being on TV, what is the show that you go on in the morning? Is it Good Morning America, is it?
I've been on Windy City Live.
Windy City Live.
I've been on Good Day New York. I've done a lot of radio and stuff. I guess I just, as far as that goes, I always just feel like every opportunity is a different opportunity to kind of be called by the spirit world. And so when I do a TV thing, I just feel like, okay, Spirit led me here for a reason. And I just trust in that and stuff. And so I try not to think about it as, TV. I just try to think about it as, it's an opportunity, and I'm here to help and serve. And so that's kind of how I think about it.
So when you're in that position, what changes about your following? What changes, Thomas? Because you're being seen at another level.
Yeah. I think that you, like I said, I think that you do expose yourself to, more people that never have heard of psychics, people that have been looking for them. There's so many people that will say, oh my God, when I was on some of the morning shows, they had just lost a loved one. They turned it on and there I was, and they felt like, oh my God, this is a sign. And then it turns out they buy a ticket, they come to my event, they get a message. And so, I think that, yeah, Spirit likes to have fun with that stuff, and there's lots of possibilities for interactions. You do bring yourself more, skepticism, more people that are on the negative, that may, that are gonna, you put yourself out there. But the way I look at it is, you have to take the, if you have those opportunities, and I go back to that word integrity. As long as everything you do is with integrity, then that is as long as it'll guide the way. As long as you never step out of that zone, it will bring, you'll get where you need to be. And so I just trust in that.
That's true. Stay in your lane. That's what me and Luann say. Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane, because you can easily just even doing the platform with Mavis and, you know, doing the platform with Andy. It's, I got different type of following, and that was just, you know, local here. And it just made me think like, wow, there's a good, but there's also criticism as well at the same time. But that's has to be respected. People have their own views and their own opinions.
Right.
And share love upon it, sprinkle love upon it, and keep it moving, because the universe knows what they want for you. And that's, well, like you said, move forward with integrity, personal responsibility in mind. Tell the spirit world, what are we doing? Let's go. Where are you taking me? I'm going to go wherever you're going to take me. My concern is me and you.
Right. And I also think too, what's interesting is, you know, there, you know, I had this sort of, you know, kind of silly, but I had this assumption when I started doing work, and it was funny because I get this all the time, is that people have this assumption that just because somebody calls themselves a medium or a psychic, that they are this loving, kind, you know, sweet, you know, accepting person. And I've learned in dealing with so many different, you know, that you know, mediums. I mean, I talk about this all the time. I'm a normal person. I've made mistakes in my life. I've done things, but you know, and made dumb decisions. You know, I am at a place in my life now where I really try to really be responsible and things like that. But I'm even talking, so with the TV stuff, you know, I've had, you know, I've had I've had isolated incidents of huge amounts of jealousy from people that are very well known in our field. And I think, well, that's weird. That person is way more well known than I. Why are they mad that, you know, or why did they, you know, say something negative to me or put me down or say, oh, he doesn't deserve that, or he's a terrible medium. And I have had 2 or 3 incidents like that. People I've never even met. I mean, but they're very respected, but I have never met with them. I've never been in the same room with them. I don't know them at all. And I'm like, and I know that it's, you know, it's validated, you know, it's like, you know, I've either witnessed it myself or heard it, or somebody, you know, sent me an email that was sent, and I'm like, okay. So, you know, and actually, like, lies, like somebody who's very famous in our field, who emailed another medium and told them that, you know, I had given them a personal reading and it was all bad and it was horrible and it was the worst reading they ever had, and they did it. And I'm like, I've never even met that person. I don't know why that person would say that, but I've never met that person. There's no way I've met that person. And so it's interesting. It, you know, there is a, you know, and I think it's, I always joke and say, but I jokingly say, you know, in my past life, when I actually, for a couple of years in Chicago, I was working at a gay bar, and I started to dress in drag, and I was a drag queen, and I had so much fun. And I'm like, sometimes the psychics and mediums, they're a little bit more cattier sometimes than the drag queens. It's funny.
It's the sacred chakra, Thomas. It's the sacred chakra.
So I'm like, you know, that's part of the experience to do. And I'm kind of like you. I think, you know, that we work the same in terms of, I'm like, the more the merrier. I'm, you know, unless I witness somebody doing something that hurts somebody else, or hurts me, or hurts somebody I care about, or is hurtful in nature, or it is really from this dark place of the ego, it's like, I'm fine with everybody. I think everybody's got their different styles. You know, I'm not like that, but I do notice that there is a lot of that. And
there is.
Yeah. And I hope that it changes, because I know I was reading a book recently about, you know, I just was reading it. It was a book about, the history of psychoanalysis, and it was about, you know, psychoanalysis, Sigmund Freud, and it was a whole movement, and it was very popular in the 60s and 70s, and, you know, everybody had their analyst. They went 5 times a week and had a psychoanalysis, and it was very in vogue to you have a psychoanalyst, you know, like all the Woody Allen movies and stuff. And it died. You know, it was a movement that had a lot, and it totally really died. I mean, you don't even hear about it anymore. And one of the reasons that it sort of collapsed was because there was such a hubris and such a, you know, the psychoanalysts were very much like, you know, we're better than everybody. We don't need to be tested. You know, we don't, you know, and I, you know, and there was so much infighting and people creating different movements and going against each other. And I think that, I hope that there's more, you know, obviously that will never happen with mediumship, because the spirit world is just so powerful. But we do have to be aware of just, you know, that that we're all in this together, you know, and I feel like it's like, if I can help you or you can help me, or I can, you know, I do those things. I mean, people, I get an email all the time. People will say, why do you promote other psychics on your page? I'm like, well, there's enough dead people for everybody.
Yes, yes, I get that all the time.
And I'm fine with it. I'm like, you know, to me, if somebody's a good medium and I have a good reading with them, I want to tell people about it. You know, that's just who I am. And I don't know, I guess that's, some people don't get that or something.
I get that all the time, all the time. That's a big one for me. And another thing too, that let's go back to what you said, because you know what, I keep it real and you keep it real. We're going to keep it real right now. When we're mediums and when we're psychics and when we're healers, people think that we're not human. Listen, we're human. If you push us, we're going to push back. It's what's going to happen, you know, because we still have to obviously stay in our lane and set our boundaries. And for me, that's been one of the biggest challenges, is walking away from people who are like, who do you think you are? Like, I have people tell me, who do you think you are? Long Island medium. I'm like, what are you talking about? Or if people could see how you are now as you're telling me off, I'm like, you should put it on the Facebook so that they see that I'm human, because I'm human.
Right.
I'm freaking human. I'm not superhuman.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, it's all about, like I said, as long as you, as you know, and yeah, it's just as, you know, and like I said, I think probably, and you know, this hasn't quite happened yet, but one thing that does happen with, you know, PR and getting out there and your name, and if you get your own TV show, or that's something that happened. First off, I will say also, you know, a lot of mediums are like, oh, I want, you know, and you have to focus on other opportunities, because just the practicality logic of getting on TV, it's such a weird thing that could manifest. It's like, I tell people, you know, you can have a great following and never be on TV. You don't have to be on TV. But also, you know, what comes is you become a face of mediumship, whether you choose to or not. You know what I'm saying? So for example, like as, you know, and it's, I joke about it. It's funny. I mean, when I would, you know, when I did my show, my Seatbelt Psychic show, when people would get in the car, just to kind of make conversation, I would say, hey, have you ever had a reading before? I would try to kind of feel them out and, you know, just get a little conversation going and stuff. They would always say, you know, no, I haven't, but I watched that blonde kid, or I watched that blonde lady with the nails. And so it's like those people, and I've never met Tyler, I've never met Teresa, but it becomes sort of you know, you become you know, people think that is what a medium is, whether that is good or negative, or bad or, you know, positive or negative. So as you put yourself out there, as you're on the platform, you know, people are going to have these experiences, and, you know, they are going to say, oh, that's what a medium is. You know, that's what a medium reading is. It becomes how they connect. So you have to just, every time you go on the platform, every time you do a radio show, every time you teach a class, every time you do a private reading, when you think about it, a private reading versus being on a TV show, the only difference is just the number of people. But when you do a private reading, this is all advertising, not only for you, but also for mediumship. Yes. And so if somebody has a crappy experience, they're going to say, oh, that's what a medium is. You know, you know, that's what that is. And I have had people that have come, you know, and they think that is, you know, they think, I'm just saying, but, you know, because Tyler, like on his show, he scribbles and writes, you know, they think, oh, that must be what a medium is. They think because Tyler uses objects to connect with people's energy, mediums must always need objects. And I have to kind of like retrain people. Well, that's not how all mediums work. Most mediums don't use objects to connect. There's nothing wrong with that. That's their own thing. But, you know, so you do become, as you do more, you become more of an advertisement for spirit, obviously, and people make conclusions. Mm-hmm.
Sure, absolutely. And I think, you know, and I was talking about that a week ago, and I was saying, you know, I was just sitting here and I was thinking, Thomas, and I was like, you know, Lily, I love so many that have paved the way. I love them, Thomas, and I embrace every medium. I do. As you can see, interviews, as many people as I could bring into the platform, because it's we, not I. And the spirit world needs so many of us. But we have to be careful too, that we don't lose ourselves in what our mediumship is, because we've now went and took a class and trained with someone, and it was brilliant, and they were amazing, and it was wonderful. but perhaps it's not what your soul wants you to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
You're going to take.
Yeah. No, that's totally true. And I think that's also true. Also, I have had that sort of a parallel with that is when people are having their own experiences with the spirit world that are sitters. I have so many people that say, "Oh my God, well, my sister has all these dreams, and my dad and I never have dreams." And it's like, or I never do that. And it's like everybody has a different energetic metabolism for how they connect with spirit. And so when I work with people in my classes with mediumship, I focus on, this is the way I teach more forward edge. I teach more, well, how are you naturally, because I am a natural born medium, how are you naturally? How did you come into this world? What are your gifts? And how can we kind of refine things and hone into things? But I don't want to make somebody a totally different person in their classes. If you work more, I don't know, clairvoyantly or something, I don't want to, or how people have different ways of connecting. So when I've mentored people, and there's a couple people that I've mentored, like Kate Koflett and Cheryl Murphy, and so when we've worked together, I really try to see, okay, where are they at? What is their soul about? And then if we have to kind of tweak things and stuff, but I don't think that a way is like, this rigid way of doing things where it's like, well, you have to do this, and if you don't, I think that to me is a negative to me. And I have had experiences in sitting in classes like that, and I'm sure you probably been talking about it. It's like, oh my God, people, there should not be teachers yelling at people in medium classes. That shouldn't be going on. So, it should be something where it's like, you learn, you grow. It's interesting, and the other thing is I truly do believe this, that if you have a calling to be a medium and you're supposed to be a medium, like spirit will lead you there. They will keep, there were so many opportunities. I was running the opposite direction from it. I was like, I was like, let me dress in drag, let me get drunk every night. I want nothing to do with it. And I still could not get it. It made it stronger. I was doing everything that would be the opposite of what you would do to develop. I was hanging around with losers. I was just not, it wasn't like I was meditating every day to, and spirit still was like, you're getting back here, you're back. So now I know that if you're supposed to truly do this work, you will know, and you will not be able to do anything else. So
it's a longing. It's a burning. It's a desire. It's a humbleness. It's you. It's who you are. And like you, let me tell you, I've had my share of things that I've done too. I was a gang member in the streets of Chicago. I was as bad as the boys. Did I ever hurt anybody? No, I probably was placed there to help people, not to be hurt. But I live the streets, and I know what drugs are, and I know what gangs are, and I know what it is to lose people from drugs and gun violence and all those things. And I was involved with that, but that doesn't make me a bad person. And I'm sure everybody has their views and their opinions, just like, so, like you said, at one point you were a drag queen, and I'm sure that comes up when people talk, oh, well, he was once a da-da-da-da. Who gives a shit? I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. Who cares? So what? And you are who you are right now in this moment. And that made you who you are today, because it made you strong enough to stand in your power, to be who you are. Because to be a medium, let me tell you, it's not easy to say, hey, I'm a medium and I believe in what I do and I'm in my power of it, because you're going to get attacked. I have gotten hate mail before.
Oh yeah, and I think that is part of it, and I know that my, I know that every experience that I went through, I also know, that even my childhood, was just really bad. My dad would like beat the shit out of us and attack us, and I know that spirit was probably like, you're not gonna like this, but you've got to have these tough things so that when somebody comes to you and say, I had a client yesterday. All 3 of her sons committed suicide. And I feel like within 1 year. And I feel like, I don't know if I didn't have some dark stuff that I went through, I would probably be like, oh my God, but I can just be there with these clients and I'm like, bring it on, let's go. And I can do this and I can hold the space because I have had these different experiences that have made me who I am. So.
Sure, absolutely. And I love that about you. because I feel the same, you know. With me, it's hilarious. It's funny. I use Florida water. So one of the things that people use is, oh, she must do voodoo because she's using Florida water cologne. Well, I mean, that's fine. If that's what you think, that's perfectly fine. But if you got to know me, I'd be one of the most sweetest, genuine people that you know. So you know, we're gonna have then this feeling. I'm glad we're talking about it, Thomas, because it's real and it happens. And it's not that we're talking negativity at all. So for those of you guys that are developing, listen to us working mediums. You will reach the road that will happen, but don't let it stop you. Stay in your lane. Love the spirit world. Love your purpose. Stay focused upon that, and don't let the outside world take you away from that.
Exactly.
You know?
We always try to grow, and always, you know, one of my best favorite things to do is I love to go and see other mediums demonstrate. I love to just be a part of that and just kind of see that and sit circle and learn and I think all those things, never stop learning, you know, never stop learning, never stop growing, never stop taking these experiences and learning, because they're so important.
Absolutely. So how can people get a hold of you for any of your services, classes, mentorships? How do they keep in touch with what is happening in your world?
Yes. So I am at mediumthomas.com, and I am also at phone number 347-637-8592. That's my office phone. I do private sittings. I do gallery readings. Best thing to do is just to go on my website, which is mediumthomas.com. Go to the bottom, put your email address in, and then you'll start to get emails from me. And, you know, we don't send too many, but we alert people when I'm doing events. And that's really the best thing. My Facebook is Medium Thomas Fans. I'm also at my new TV page, which is Seatbelt Psychic.
I saw that. I hit like, so like it today so you guys know when it launches.
And that's pretty much it. So I'm available. I'm around. I do a lot of events.
So what do you have going on now for the month of June? What's up with you for June?
So we've got got Life and Loss course coming up. It's a whole course about how to deal with grief from a spiritual perspective. It's great, and I just confirmed one of my really good friends, Terry Daniel, who's a counselor. Well, she's a spiritual teacher. She's an expert on grief. She's a great lecturer. She's actually going to do a bonus call with us, which I'm so excited about. But if you Google her, Reverend Terry Daniel, she does it about how to grieve gracefully and the power of grief. So we have that course coming up. I have my basic intuition class that's coming up at Omega, which is 4th of July weekend. So I'll be at Omega. Then I'm probably I might go over to Lilydale. I'm not going to work there, but I am going to probably just go and see Lilydale.
Oh, let me know. I want to go. Me and Luann actually put in an application to see if we could teach there.
Oh, cool.
Summer.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, you probably will be if you put it in now. You know, they're already planning next summer. They plan really far in advance. But you should do it. Yeah, that's a great place. I've never worked there, but it's just the energy is there. You'll really like.
I've been there just to be there, and it's like, oh.
Yeah, you definitely. So yeah, and I just got a lot of gallery events coming up. I'm going to St. Louis soon, Cincinnati, Florida. You know, thing with you in Chicago.
Yay, Chicago! Everybody, buy your tickets.
Oh, I'm excited. Yeah.
Yes. So if you want to buy the tickets for October, you can do that. I'll go ahead and post the flyer. But if you want to know, it's Chicago Reading Gallery. Again, that's Chicago Reading Gallery.eventbrite.com. The event will sell out. I know it. So if you're interested, purchase your tickets as soon as you can. And again, Thomas, thank you for your time in such a busy time in your life. I really appreciate it. I really like your energy. I really like you. It just is very natural to have this conversation with you, and it feels good, you know, for it to be natural. So I look forward to collaborating with you in October, and I will be posting all your stuff, you know, on my page and in this group. So you join now. So if there's anything that you ever want me to post, since you have all these things going on, let me know. We'll post it. I'm pretty sure that people now will be like, who's Thomas? Who's Thomas? Because in the mediumship group, it's like, we have Ireland, we have Switzerland, we have a little bit of everything on top of your following already.
Well, welcome. Thank you.
Yay. So thank you so much. You have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful evening. And I look forward to talking to you soon. Everybody look up Thomas. He's giving you guys the information, and join galleries if you're in the town where he's going. Check out his events and come and see us in October. Bye for now, Thomas. Bye, everybody.